In the misty realm where history bleeds into legend, few figures cast as long and dark a shadow is Vlad III of Wallachia, known to history as Vlad the Impaler, and to literature as the inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula. Born into a turbulent 15th century Europe threatened by the expanding Ottoman Empire, Vlad's life story reveals a complex ruler whose extreme brutality in defense of his homeland created a legacy that continues to fascinate and horrify centuries later. This account seeks to separate the historical Vlad from the vampire myth, exploring how a Wallachian prince became the archetype of the undead count. The 15th century Balkans were a contested frontier between two great powers, the Christian kingdoms of Europe and the expanding Ottoman Empire. Wallachia, modern-day southern Romania, occupied a precarious position as a buffer state between these forces. Nominally independent, but constantly pressured to pay tribute and show allegiance to the stronger power, the region's politics were notoriously unstable, with noble families' boyars frequently switching allegiances and assassinating rulers. The -1 reign of a Wallachian prince during this period was less than 3 years. This constant turmoil created a political culture where extreme violence was not just common, but necessary for survival. The Ottomans themselves practiced brutal methods of execution and psychological warfare, including impalement, which they introduced to the region. This was the world Vlad was born into, a place where mercy was often fatal, and where rulers had to be more terrifying than their enemies to maintain power. Early life and family legacy: 1431 to 1447. Vlad III was born in 1431 in Sirecourt, Transylvania, the second son of Vlad to Dracula. His father had earned the epithet Dracula the Dragon through his membership in the Order of the Dragon, a chivalric order founded by Holy Roman Emperor Sigismund to defend Christian Europe against the Ottomans. Thus, from birth, Vlad inherited both the name Dracula, meaning son of the dragon, and a destiny tied to the defense of Christendom. Vlad's childhood was brief. In 1442, to secure his father's loyalty, Sultan Murad II took Vlad and his younger brother Radu as hostages to the Ottoman court. These formative years would prove crucial in shaping Vlad's character and methods. At the Ottoman court, Vlad witnessed both the empire's immense power and its brutal methods of governance. He received education in science, philosophy, and the arts, but also observed torture, execution, and the psychological use of terror as political tools. Meanwhile, back in Wallachia, his father and older brother Mercier faced increasing political turmoil. In 1447, Vlad Dracula was overthrown and killed by Hungarian-backed rivals, while Mercier was captured, blinded with hot irons, and buried alive. These events, occurring while Vlad was still a hostage, undoubtedly shaped his worldview and instilled in him a belief that only absolute ruthlessness could ensure survival in Wallachian politics. First reign and exile: 148. In 1448, the Ottomans released Vlad and provided him with troops to seize the Wallachian throne, hoping to install a puppet ruler. At just 17, Vlad claimed the throne, but held it for barely 2 months before being driven out by Hungarian forces supporting a rival claimant. This brief-filled first reign taught Vlad several important lessons: the fickleness of the boyars, the necessity of external support, and the reality that possessing the throne was easier than keeping it. For the next 8 years, Vlad lived in exile, first in Moldavia under the protection of his uncle Bogdan II, and later in Transylvania under the protection of John Hunyadi, the Hungarian regent who had originally opposed him. This period of exile was crucial for Vlad's development. He observed different styles of leadership, cultivated relationships with potential allies, and planned his return. Most importantly, he developed a profound distrust of the Wallachian nobility, whom he blamed for his family's downfall. Second reign: consolidation of power. 1456. 1446 to Vlad's opportunity came in 1456, following the death of John Hunyadi and a period of political confusion. With support from Hungary, and Wallachian factions disillusioned with the current ruler, Vlad returned to claim his throne. His second reign would become the stuff of legend. Vlad immediately moved to consolidate power through methods that were extreme even by 15th century standards. His first major act was to eliminate potential rivals during the Easter celebration of 1457. According to contemporary accounts, Vlad arrested all the boyar families who had participated in his father's and brother's murders. The older boyars were impaled, while the younger ones and their families were forced on a death march to the remote fortress of Poenari, where they rebuilt the stronghold that would become Vlad's primary residence. This established a pattern that would characterize Vlad's reign: the use of extreme, theatrical violence not just as punishment, but as political theater designed to terrorize potential opponents into submission. Vlad understood that in a land with weak institutions and constant external threats, fear could be the most effective tool of governance. The Impaler methods and philosophy of rule, the epithet Pepi Impaler, was earned through Vlad's preferred method of execution. Impalement, while not invented by Vlad, was refined by him into a psychological weapon of mass terror. The process involved inserting a wooden stake through the body, usually entering through the rectum or vagina and exiting through the mouth or shoulder, then erecting the stake vertically. So gravity would slowly pull the victim downward as they died over hours or even days. Contemporary accounts, particularly German pamphlets and Russian narratives, describe Vlad's impalements in grisly detail. The most famous incident occurred in 1462 when, facing an Ottoman invasion led by Sultan Mehmed II, Vlad created a forest of the impale outside his capital of Targovik. Thousands of stakes held Turkish prisoners, creating a horrifying spectacle designed to break the will of the invading army. According to the Byzantine historian Leonikos Chalkakondals, Sultan Mehmed, known as the conqueror for taking Constantinople, was so shaken by this sight that he admitted, "It is not possible to deprive of his country a man who has done such great deeds, who has such a diabolical understanding of how to govern his realm and its people." Vlad's cruelty was systematic and served multiple purposes: political consolidation, eliminating the old boyar class allowed Vlad to create a new nobility loyal directly to him; social control. His extreme punishments for crimes, from theft to murder, reportedly created such fear that, according to legends, a gold cup could be left in a public square without being stolen. Economic reform. By attacking both the German Saxon merchants whom he accused of undermining Wallachian autonomy and the old nobility, Vlad centralized economic power. Psychological warfare. The theatrical nature of his executions served as deterrent and spectacle. It's important to note that many accounts of Vlad's cruelty come from his enemies, particularly German Saxons in Transylvania with whom Vlad had economic conflicts, and Ottoman sources. The number of victims is likely exaggerated in these sources, though archaeological evidence confirms impalement was practiced on a significant scale. Military campaigns against the Ottomans. Despite owing his throne partly to Ottoman support in his youth, Vlad became one of the Ottomans' most determined opponents. His reign coincided with the peak of Ottoman expansion under Mehmed II, who had conquered Constantinople in 1453 and was pushing deeper into Europe in 1461. Vlad ceased paying the annual tribute to the Porte, effectively declaring independence. When Mehmed sent envoys to demand compliance, Vlad famously had their turbans nailed to their heads, stating they should not remove their headgear in the presence of a prince. This act of defiance led to war. Vlad's most celebrated military achievement came during the night attack at Targovik in June 1462. With an Ottoman army of perhaps 90,000 men, though numbers vary in sources, advancing toward his capital, Vlad launched a daring night raid on the Sultan's camp with a much smaller force. Using knowledge of the terrain and guerrilla tactics, his forces caused significant confusion and casualties, nearly capturing Mehmed himself, though ultimately forced to retreat. The attack demonstrated Vlad's tactical brilliance and willingness to take extreme risks. When Conventional defense became impossible. Vlad adopted scorched earth tactics, poisoning wells, burning crops, and relocating populations to deprive the Ottomans of resources. It was during this retreat that he created his infamous forest of the impaled to demoralize the pursuing Ottoman forces. Captivity and final reign 1462 to 1476. Despite Vlad's fierce resistance, he was eventually betrayed by the Hungarian king Matthias Corvinus, who had promised support, but instead arrested Vlad in 1462. The reasons for this betrayal remain debated. Matthias may have been bribed by Ottoman gold, or may have seen Vlad as too unstable and independent to control. Vlad spent the next 12 years in captivity, first in Hungary and later under house arrest. During this period, his reputation was cemented through the circulation of pamphlets in Germany detailing his atrocities. These publications, which mixed fact with exaggeration and fabrication, served both as propaganda against the Ottoman threat and as sensationalist entertainment for European audiences hungry for tales of exotic barbarity. Paradoxically, while Vlad was imprisoned, his younger brother Radu, who had remained with the Ottomans and converted to Islam, ruled Wallachia as an Ottoman puppet. Radu's reign was reportedly peaceful, but deeply unpopular with those who resented Ottoman dominance. In 1475, with the Ottoman threat increasing, Matthias Corvinus released Vlad and provided him with troops for one final campaign. Vlad briefly reclaimed the Wallachian throne in 1476, but his support was tenuous. He ruled for less than 2 months before being killed in battle against Ottoman forces in December 1476. Accounts of his death vary. Some say he was assassinated by disloyal boyars, others that he was killed in combat, and still others that he was mistakenly killed by his own men. His head was sent to Constantinople, where it was displayed on a stake to prove the Impaler was truly dead. The creation of the Dracula legend, the transformation of Vlad the Impaler into Count Dracula, took centuries and reflects changing cultural anxieties. During his lifetime and immediately after, Vlad was remembered in 3 distinct ways. In Wallachia and parts of Eastern Europe, he was remembered as a harsh but effective ruler who defended his people against foreign domination. Romanian folklore contains stories of his cruelty, but also of his justice and defense of the poor against corrupt boyars and foreign merchants. In German-speaking lands, the Saxon communities in Transylvania, with whom Vlad had economic conflicts, produced pamphlets depicting him as a sadistic monster. These publications, which spread throughout Europe, exaggerated his cruelty and added fictional elements that would later influence vampire literature. In Ottoman and Greek accounts, he was remembered as a cruel but formidable opponent, a Kazakh Bey impaling prince whose methods were shocking even to an empire familiar with brutality. The connection to vampirism developed gradually. The word Dracula originally meant son of Dracul, son of the dragon, or devil. In Romanian folklore, Vlad was sometimes associated with strigoi, restless spirits, or revenants, but not specifically with blood-drinking vampires. It was Bram Stoker's 1897 novel Dracula that fused these elements, combining Vlad's historical cruelty with Eastern European vampire folklore and Victorian anxieties about sexuality, disease, and reverse colonization. Stoker likely learned about Vlad through works like Emily Gerard's Transylvanian Superstitions and William Wilkinson's account of the principalities of Wallachia and Moldavia, which mentioned a voivode Dracula who fought against the Turks. The name and location provided inspiration, but Stoker's Count Dracula bears little resemblance to the historical Vlad beyond the name and general Transylvanian setting. Modern interpretations and historical legacy. In modern Romania, Vlad's legacy is complex and contested. During the communist era, Nicolae Ceausescu's regime promoted Vlad as a national hero who defended Romania against foreign invaders, downplaying his cruelty. Since the fall of communism, historians have engaged in more nuanced analysis, debating whether Vlad was a national hero, a psychopathic tyrant, or a product of his brutal times. Contemporary historians generally view Vlad within the context of 15th century state building. His methods, while extreme, were not unique in an era when rulers like England's Henry VIII or France's Louis XI also used terror as a political tool. What distinguished Vlad was the theatrical scale and consistency of his violence, and the fact that his victims included not just political rivals, but common criminals and ethnic minorities from a military perspective. Vlad was an innovative commander who used psychological warfare and guerrilla tactics against her superior enemy. His resistance to Ottoman expansion, while ultimately unsuccessful, demonstrated that the Ottomans could be challenged and delayed, buying time for other European powers to organize resistance. Vlad the Impaler remains one of history's most compelling and contradictory figures, a ruler who used unimaginable cruelty to defend his people's independence, a Christian prince who learned statecraft from Muslim captors, a local warlord who became a global icon of evil. His historical significance lies not just in his resistance to the Ottomans, but in what he reveals about the nature of power in frontier regions, where extreme measures were often seen as necessary for survival. The Dracula legend, while historically inaccurate, speaks to deeper truths about how we process historical trauma and collective memory.